Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm here to introduce you to some of the most interesting and successful business people. I want you to learn their stories and what made them be who they are today, the insights and secrets to their success. I want you to have real business people getting real. In this series I call The Real Business Superpowers. Hi guys and welcome back to my channel, where we will be talking to professionals about the nitty-gritty of business and what it took for them to get to where they are. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Joshua Lisec. I'm gonna read to you a little bit more about him before we start. He is a professional ghostwriter, copywriter, and marketing strategy expert. He is the #1 international bestseller ghostwriter, TEDx speaker, and the president of the Entrepreneur Worship. He is also adding a new member to his family, so congratulations on the new baby and welcome. Thank you for being here.
Sure thing, Victoria. I'm thrilled to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the interview. We're really happy to have you here, and we can't wait to hear more about what you do. How was your day? Let's just start by that. How was your day?
It's going pretty well. It's a little busy. I've got obviously this, which is a lot of fun. This interview with you, and later on this afternoon, I have looks like an article that I'm going to be ghostwriting for a thought leader in Germany and an industry over there. That's going to be a lot of fun. So we've got that. I'm working on materials for a book launch coming up in February. So not only am I a ghostwriter, I'm also a ghost publisher.
Oh.
So I'm working behind the scenes of her business to get that book all ready to get launched. And later on this afternoon, I have my a call with my marketing consultant that I hired to work with me. So it's a full day. It's a full day.
Wow, you're doing
yours?
loads of things, aren't you? Mine wasn't half as fun as yours. On the whole ghostwriting thing, I don't know if everyone that are listening to us knows what being a ghostwriter means, but certainly I didn't before I met you. And the first thing that came to my mind, I don't know, have you ever seen this show called Ghostwriter that was on Fox Kids? I don't know, on the 90s, it's like this show, and I was like, ooh, you're a ghostwriter. Just like took me all the way back to childhood. And not only that, but you're #1 internationally. So could you tell us a bit more about what that means for everyone here listening?
Sure, yes. So a ghostwriter, I'll first say what a ghostwriter is not.
Okay.
I think that's helpful. So when I'm working with, let's say, an author or an entrepreneur or a business owner who has a bunch of ideas, they either want to write a book, an ebook, a white paper, or even like a 2,000-word epic article to post on their blog. So what I don't do is talk to the person and say, hey, what do you want to write about? And then they say, oh, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this, and I want to say all these things, all the things. And then I transcribe what they say. I edit the grammar of the transcription, and there's the article. Yay! That is not what a ghostwriter does. Now, that's what a lot of people think of what a ghostwriter is. That's what they do. But the job of a ghostwriter is just like with a ghost, basically, is to be this ethereal personality, sort of mystical person that most people don't see. And that's why it's called a ghostwriter, because what my job is to do is to talk with, let's say, an entrepreneur who wants to write a book, like the one that I've been working on now. What my job is to do is to interview this client, ask them about what what ideas they have, what effect they want to have on people, what strategies that they've used, and I take them in depth to talk about what's most important to them, what's most important to their audience, and their subject matter, where that's concerned. And I take that material and I utilize any one of my templates for basically the best practices of writing a book or writing an article, and I rearrange their content according to that template. And then what I do, and this is the part of really what ghostwriting is, I create an author voice report. Basically what I do is making sure that I have cataloged everything that makes that person's communication style unique. So based on my interview with them in the transcription, based on any previous content they've written, like blogs or articles, things like that, I use software to scan through through any previous content they've written, and I create this author voice report that includes all of the different things that sets their writing style, their communication style apart from everyone else. And then what I do is, as I'm rearranging their content that I've gotten from the transcription, or maybe I'm repurposing a blog post and writing the book, for instance, I then infuse their author voice into the book that I've started working on, so that when I hand the first chapter back to them and say, hey, here's the first chapter that covers everything we talked about that you want to have in the first
Mhm.
chapter, it reads like they actually wrote it, and it feels like them, not like me. So that's what a ghostwriter does. And the number one best-selling part is that one of the latest ones I worked on for a businesswoman, it was commercially successful, sold tens of thousands of copies. And the whole point of being a commercially successful ghostwriter is to, kind of, prove to the marketplace that people actually want to read what I
Yeah.
write for an author, which is like really
Yeah,
important
obviously.
for
Yeah.
communicators, is that people actually want to read it.
That is so cool. So you're kind of you actually have to not only research who they're talking to, but also you have to really deeply understand who it is that you're writing for, because you kind of like almost like become them when you write.
Yes, yes. I call it acting in print.
That is so incredibly cool. I love it. And I saw that you say, well, on this, I saw on your website that you actually say I'm just gonna quote you here. The right words
Sure.
create the right emotions, and the right emotions are the ones that drive the right results. Why is this important for a company to have a copywriter and a ghostwriter?
Yes, yes. So that's kind of my motto that you
Mm-hmm.
that you just quoted. And the idea is, so being a ghostwriter, I don't just work with people who want to write a
Yes.
book. I also have a significant marketing background, and I've created content specifically for marketing campaigns in about 51 or 52 different industries.
Wow.
So I'm very well
Yeah.
rounded in that way. And the fundamental principle of all marketing and sales is, and people could probably finish my sentence before I get it out, and that is, people buy an emotion,
Surprise,
right?
surprise.
Like that's the
Yeah, it's
thing.
true.
Yes, people buy an
Mm-hmm.
emotion. Now, of course, do you as the business owner, do you have to wait for people to have those emotions to buy, or is there something that you can do to cultivate those emotions? And obviously, I ask that rhetorically because of course there is. So if you want the right result, aka people subscribing to your blog, taking action, downloading your free reports, buying the first product, using the coupon, staying on your email list, buying the next product, becoming that lifelong customer, referring you to other people, those are the right results. So if you want those results, then you need to cultivate or trigger those emotions
Mm-hmm.
appropriately that lead to those actions or those results. And if you're going to move people to have those emotions that motivate them to take action, you have to use the right words to do that, right? Because that's literally all persuasion is done via communication. And so what that means is, whether I'm writing a script for a video, or I'm working in a Facebook advertising campaign, or I'm writing a book that's part of a person's thought leadership, brand in their industry, I'm always making sure that I'm writing for the user, like for that person's
Yeah.
customer. And this gets back to a principle in marketing, which is called the customer journey. The idea of the customer journey is that of your business's target
Mm-hmm.
market, right? Not everybody is ready to buy right now. I think there's actually a statistic in a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine, where the author cites a statistic that at any given time in any target market, only about like 1 of 10 people are ready to buy right now. Like their credit card is on the way out to be read off or swiped or inserted in various
Yeah.
places. And so the other 90%, well, how are you going to get them, right? So the customer journey basically states that there is, in fact, a method you can use to motivate people to take action and to actually want to buy from you. And so there's different messages in your marketing materials that you need to say at different times. So if you are like the very first thing that somebody sees, that's basically an awareness ad or an article on your blog, or like your freebie download to get on the email list, for instance. That sort of a piece of content. The whole purpose of that is to introduce people to what it is that you have, to have to offer. It's also making them aware that whatever problem they have that your product solves, they actually have that
Yeah.
problem. Or if there's a dream or goal they have, your product or service exists to help them get that goal or to accomplish that dream. So first you have to create awareness that you even exist and that
Yeah.
they need you. And later on, you could have more of the hard sell sort of pitch type of messages because people at that point are listening and want to hear what you have to sell, not just what you have to say. So my job as the copywriter and the ghostwriter for whatever piece of content I'm working on is to know where most people are at when they're going to first be exposed to my client's business, their brand, or their message. And then based on that, I need to use the right words in that piece of content, whether it's a video script or a book, that is going to cultivate those right emotions to make the person either whip out their credit card or just pay attention, notice the business in the first place. So that's how that motto is put into
So do you
practice.
ideally work together with a marketing? So if let's say I'm a company that wants to hire you, for example, I want to have a ghostwriter. I want to take you in. Would you work together with the marketing team, or would you work separately and do the whole structure yourself, or do you work together, or both things?
I've done both in the past. I've worked with the largest community college in North America, and given that they're have tens of thousands of students basically, they have a marketing department
Mm.
already. So what I did is I came on at a couple of different times. At one point, I helped them basically set up their customer journey and determine where the students are going to be and what emotions need to get cultivated at
Mm.
different times throughout their marketing campaigns. I also played the role of writing copy for those pieces, and the other people who were part of the marketing department went ahead and implemented according to the strategy. And we had these kind of roundtable discussions where we talked about some of the marketing department's concerns, their needs, what they were noticing that the potential customers, aka students, were out there feeling and thinking, and then we created it accordingly. I've also been in organizations that don't even have not even a marketing
Yeah.
department. They don't have a marketing
Mm.
person,
Exactly. Yeah.
and so they need the I guess you could say marketer of
Yeah.
all trades. So my core offer of customer journey driven ghost copywriting for marketing tactics,
The whole
that's the
thing.
core service. I could scale that down or
Mm.
scale that up depending on the what the client already has in place and what goal that they have, whether that's, hey, we want to run Facebook ads, or we don't have a brand, or we need a book so that our business owner becomes famous in this industry and we can get better
Yeah.
clients. Right? The needs are all
And
over
you
the
do
place.
this all through your own company, right?
Yes, the Entrepreneur's Wordsmith
Could you tell
LLC.
us a bit more about how you started your company?
Yes, yes. So it came actually by a bit of necessity. I was
Mm.
one of those people who wasn't like, I want to be a writer. I want to be I want to be this ghostwriter. I want to do all this sort of
Yeah.
stuff, right? There's a lot of people who that's where
Mm.
they were. I originally was thinking, when I grow up, I want to be a professor,
Mm.
or I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be this, I want to be that. I was thinking all these
Yeah.
different things, right? But when reality meets Joshua in college, and I'm working at a library, and I'm surrounded by books, right? And I'm seeing like number one international, number one bestseller, number one national bestseller, New York Times bestseller. I'm shelving these books at the
Mm.
library, right? And I'm flipping through these things, right? And on the cover it says, 1 million copies sold. I'm scrolling through these books. I'm like, this is a piece of
Oh my God.
shit. Like, who the hell would read this? That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking to myself, right? I can write better than
Mm.
this. And so when I was there in college, that gave me kind of the motivation to want to literally write my own books. And so that's how I got started as a professional
Wow.
writer, was writing a couple of novels. They got published by an independent house out of DC. And once I did that, I became known as the guy who writes
Yeah.
books, right? So I'd actually done what like 80% of people want to do, which is, write a book. And so people would come and say, hey, can you help me write my book?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's how kind of the ghostwriting, I guess to say, aspect of my business appeared. And on the other end, while I was in college, I had various professors constantly telling me I should become a professional writer because my essays were so good. And I would get like 125% out of
Ooh, congrats.
100%, which is somehow possible
Totally
on
possible.
research
Yeah.
essays. And yeah, on research essays and
That's
whatnot.
cool.
I'm like, okay, I wonder if people will actually pay me for
Mm.
this. And so it's going to be 7 years ago here coming up in 2018 that I first decided to answer that question. Will people actually pay me for this? And so that becomes the story that I shared in my TEDx talk up at Lake Erie a couple of weeks ago about how I actually got started in my very first writing project, first freelance writing project was I basically did it for free, right? But I got paid for it. I'm like, people are actually going to pay for
Yeah.
this. And so that begins my journey into creating copy for marketing campaigns and advertisements. And then, 50 industries later, I've kind of merged both the ghostwriting and the copywriting solutions so that when I'm creating marketing content, it's uniform with the brand's voice. Or if it's a business owner who's talking, right, like an entrepreneur, it's in their voice as well. So I've got both of those pieces
Yeah.
working.
I have a question. You know, when you do
Sure.
when you are part, you write something as a ghostwriter, and then you're kind of like getting into how the person talks or how the company talks. Do you do you appear somewhere on the books, or you're completely incognito?
Most of the time it is
Mm-hmm.
incognito. Yeah.
In-
Now sometimes they'll the author or the business owner will give me a testimonial, or they'll say, yeah, go ahead and quote me on this. I will do a testimonial video. Here's five
yeah.
sentences that I really enjoyed. Or I could say, hey, these are the companies that I've worked with in the past. These are the individuals that I worked with in the past, and that kind of gets the idea
I feel
across.
you're like the James Bond of writing. Like it's so cool. It's like a little,
You could
yeah.
say
I like,
so. Undercover, making some cool stuff
yeah.
happen behind the
What
scenes.
were your
Yeah.
biggest struggles when you started your company?
I think my biggest struggle was knowing exactly what to
Mm.
offer, specifically because freelance writing, or more specifically, professional writing, like what does that actually look like? I mean, it could be from, especially I was looking at all the different niches or niches or whatever people
Yeah.
call it,
Yeah.
depending
Yeah.
on your type dialect of
Yeah.
English you speak, I guess. And so there was like, well, I'm a professional white paper and case study writer. I'm a professional Facebook and Instagram ad headline writer. I'm a freelance writer who take on any project. Like
Yeah.
there's all sorts of
Narrow
different
it down.
different niches or different specifics. Yeah. And so I really had to narrow them down. And I did that by asking myself, okay, what is it that I can provide the best? And what is it that there's most demand for in the marketplace? And imagine those as like two circles,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like a Venn diagram. And the overlap there in the
Mm-hmm.
middle, that's where I eventually found myself in both ghostwriting and copywriting, but basically not just, oh, I'm going to offer copywriting services, ghostwriting services, but specifically the customer journey strategy that includes both ghostwriting and
Yeah.
copywriting. So copywriting and ghostwriting are like the train, and my strategy is the tracks that the train goes on, right? The
Yeah.
customer journey idea where not everybody's ready to buy right now. So it's your job as the person to motivate people to pay attention to you, listen to you, to consider your product or service, and then when the time is right,
Bye.
buy from you. So it was finding that niche and at the beginning having no clue how to do
And that's
that.
a very interesting way of putting it, kind of like the where those two meet. Because I know a lot of
Yes.
entrepreneurs have that problem. They're like, okay, so I know I can do this in all of these different areas. Where do I go? So
Right,
it's a
right.
really good way of seeing it. I like it. Um,
Sure
I want
thing.
to ask you now, because in terms of this, there's a lot of startups that they obviously
Hmm.
want to have, want people to know who they are, want to have presence, but they're startups and they might not have the money for it. And what for this
Right.
type of companies, what do you recommend them to do?
Well, what are the things that makes the most sense, especially when it comes to you're just getting started and you want to be recognized in your space, right? That's really the whole
Mm-hmm.
point. I I usually start with what the goal is, and then I'll suggest a certain tactic. So, like, let's take the example of the startup. They basically want to get attention. Maybe that attention it takes the form of subscribers or opt-ins or free trial or even people signing up for their
Mm-hmm.
discovery call if they're like a services provider or consultant. What I found that is most helpful is creating a flagship piece of content. So we're talking like 2 to 4,000 words and something epic that demonstrates your methodology or your strategy a piece of content that communicates not just what you do, but the value of what you do, and it takes the form of a how-to. Though, and then sharing that article on the social media channels or in the groups that you know your potential clients or people who know your potential clients are associated or hanging out in. For example, um, one of the things that I'm doing more and more of these days is writing direct response sales pages for product
Oh,
launches. So in order to, so rather than just say, "Hey, I'm a copywriter who writes sales copy,"
yeah.
and people are like, "Okay, well, Joe down the street, my cousin, can
Yeah.
do that." So what I did is I wrote a 3,100 word, essentially an article. I published it on the Huffington Post
Wow.
that explained how I wrote sales copy for a sales page that sold over $100,000 worth of the offer. So it's basically a six-figure sales page. So what I did is I took screenshots of each section on that sales page and I explained how I wrote it to cultivate emotions. And I also bring in the customer journey to explain how at the very beginning of the sales page, I take potential customers on a journey, through different in cultivating different emotions so that first they're okay, what does this guy have to say? To wow, I think I'm really interested in what he has to say. To wow, maybe I need a solution to
Yeah.
my problem. My problem really is that bad. And then, well, what should a solution include? What are the criteria for a product or service I
Yeah.
should
Where do I
buy?
buy this?
Oh wow, yeah, I really want to buy
Yeah.
this, right? And that's of course how it sold $100,000, and it was about like 2 or 3 hours that happened just from traffic being driven to that
Yeah.
page. And so to show people that my stuff is commercially viable and successful and doing what I claim it does, I write this 3,000 word article published in the Huffington Post. So not only do I have the credibility of
Yeah.
Huffington Post being a major media outlet, I also have a case study that I'm using to show how my strategies work. So I'm not just saying how to write a sales page. I'm saying how to write a sales page based on one I wrote that sold $100,000 worth of
Yeah,
the
so it's
offer.
kind of like using your own case study and breaking it apart. Like, hey, I'm totally
Yes.
open about how I did it, and look, it works. That's so
Yes, case studies
clever.
into a how-to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the very first piece of content I would recommend because then right out of the gate you have credibility, authority, and expertise. All three of those in one piece of content. It doesn't
And
get much
then,
better than that unless
yeah, I
you're
was
writing a
gonna
book.
say because I know that a lot of people, especially people that offer services, coaches, anyway, they like the whole idea. There's at least I've even been recommended, hey, you should write a book because it gives you
Yeah.
expertise of and people know that you're there, and then they go about publishing it in
Right.
Amazon. But then I've encountered people that have terrible self-published books that I'm like, they need a
Yeah.
ghostwriter. Yeah.
Right.
Um, I think we kind of touched on my next question a little bit on the top, but I'll ask
Hmm.
you anyway in case you want to take it a bit further. So I'm all about connecting with people. So as you know, I work in
Hmm.
teaching people how to hack human behavior, and that's my passion, how to connect with people. So I want to ask you, how do you connect with your audience, and how do you help your clients connect with their audience, which you touched a little bit before on anyway.
Right, right. So the very first one is how I connect with my own clients. I guess how I find them or how they find me. Being in business for about 7 years now or so, one of the things that I've built a good stream up of is not just word of mouth marketing from clients who loved what I did, but repeat
Mm.
clients. So I have one fellow who's been a repeat client of mine a couple of times a year every year since 2012.
Wow.
And I have other clients who not quite that long, but going back to 2013, 2014, they've been with me so long, and I just keep ghostwriting more content for their business, and it works so well. Why would they get rid of
Yeah.
me, right? And then so another thing, when people look at the content that a person puts out, they're like, "Damn, Bill, that's amazing! How did you write that? That's so well written." It's like, well, let me introduce you to this guy
Yeah.
over here,
Word of
right? And
mouth.
so my the quality of my content really does speak for itself. And so then the person whose name I'm ghostwriting it and publishing it for, um, they're happy to refer me to
Mm.
people. So that's one of the ways that I've been able to connect with
And I
clients.
think that what you're saying is very important because a lot of companies, they forget about honing those clients that they've had, like those repeated clients, and they just focus on getting new clients when they're missing out and
Right.
those clients are still there, they become your fans, and they're actually the ones that refer you to other people. So that's a very good point that you're
Right.
touching on there, I think. Anyway, and then the other part of the question, the clients.
Yes, yes. So how could I connect with them with their audiences? So the interesting thing about this is that I am not one of my own clients. So what works for me is not necessarily what I recommend for other people, and what I recommend for other people is not necessarily what I do. It all depends on their specific customer journey. So who is their customer, right? Who is their
Mm-hmm.
persona that they're wanting to reach, and then what makes the most sense to put themselves in front of their people. So I have a tool that basically, especially with authors specifically, um, that helps them determine, okay, here's the value I want to add. Here's what everything I can say in my book. Here's what I can say about my product. And then over here, here's what's going to make the most difference for this customer. Here's what's going to resonate with them the most. And then find that and identify that area of overlap. And that's what you need to make the whole, focal point of your business. And a good example of this is a very, very niche industry. So concrete coatings, right? So concrete coatings for your concrete basement, your bland gray slab that's so drab in your garage if you have a garage, or your
Mm.
pool, patio, your backyard, or your front, porch concrete. So this is a company in this industry that does all kinds of unique and fun concrete coatings to make like a concrete floor look like it's marble, right?
Super
It's kind of
neat,
an
yeah.
aesthetic service. You're right, super niche indeed. So when I'm thinking, okay, I want to connect their service and their offer to their market, I first start with what's most important to their market, or to their
Mm.
people. And so one of their personas is a middle-aged mother of two who is married. She works at least part-time. She has at least a two-car garage. One of them is a minivan. And when she comes home every day to drop off the kids, come home from work, her garage is a mess. There's like crap everywhere. There's oil stains on the floor. Like, she comes home and she does not feel relaxed. She comes home to this total mess, which in a way symbolizes her life. So that's a very specific type of customer, right? Like I just described
Yeah.
one person, but really that persona is thousands and thousands of people who are just like that in some way, who they want to be,
Mm.
serving. So what we did is we created a series of ads, brand awareness ads, or I guess you could say solution awareness ads, that basically talk about how when you change your floor, you can change your mood. And so we have pictures of, a happy mom coming home to this beautiful, empty, clean, well organized, garage, pulling up in the minivan there, and it's this beautiful, beautiful, exquisite looking garage
Mm.
floor,
Yeah.
right? So what we're doing is we're tying the service or the product of garage organization and concrete coating to what the woman
Yeah.
wants, which is a better mood when she comes home, that the place isn't a disaster, that she feels like she's not going to a second job,
Yeah.
right? She comes home and everything is clean in this queen's palace. And so we tied the emotion that they want to have to what the product or
Mm.
service does. And it's not like we're making all scientific and getting crazy artsy about this. It's just merely simply making a connection and 3 or 4 lines of copy. And that ad actually, in terms of people who've been engaging with the ad, or clicking on the ad, driving traffic back to the website, has done 3 times as well as like the industry average was considered good for a Facebook ad. So it's
Wow.
working really, really well for them. So I'm all about, results, but most importantly, it's starting with who are your people, what's gonna resonate with them on an emotional level, and talk about that.
That's amazing. Yeah, the whole like connecting with the emotions. So, we're coming to the end of our interview. I'm gonna ask you 3 more questions, and guys, so you know, Joshua has some surprises at the end, some special tools to share with you. So we'll go through these next questions, and I'll let him explain those surprises to you. So my last 3 questions. The first one is, what are you grateful for?
I'm very grateful for my wife.
Aw, I love that.
Yes, yes. Simon Sinek in his book Start with Why, how great leaders inspire action. Um, I could tweak that title to be Start with Why, how a great spouse inspires action.
Yes. That's so cool.
Yeah. So she's very motivating. She's kind of like my brain trust when I want to pass ideas or just pass. Hey, did this email sound good? Or what do you think of this chat? This opening this chapter. She's a store manager in the health and wellness niche, and so she's dealing with the general public, like hundreds of people a day, and so she knows how to build rapport in like 3 seconds with
That's
people.
awesome.
So she's definitely an asset for me, both personally and professionally.
That is so cool. And you guys are now expecting a baby now. Congratulations.
That's right. Thank you for next spring
Yay.
here.
That's good. My next question is, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Being a dad, one.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so that's one. Another thing, I read Seth Godin's book. I believe it was called. I think it was called The Gap. Was it The Gap? It was his book about when you are deciding whether or not to quit. No, it was The Dip. That's it, not The Gap, but The Dip, right? How to know when to quit. That's a subtitle. So that's Seth Godin's book. I read that last holiday season, like between Thanksgiving and Christmas here in the States, and that made me, because at the time I was thinking, which niche should I be targeting, right? And at the time, I had probably 5 or 6 different types of professional writing services I was really focusing on big, and I had no clue which direction to go. And I chose, like, I want to become one of the best ghostwriters in the world. Like, that was I'm reading the book, and I'm like, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to, ghostwrite. And so I can apply different strategies like the customer journey and personas. And I can apply the principles of ghostwriting to marketing strategy and to copywriting and all these sorts of things. But that's my real core offer is being a ghostwriter. And so 5 years, I definitely want to be 5 years further down the path of becoming one of the best ghostwriters in the world.
Well, you're already #1 international bestseller, so you're pretty close, I guess.
There you go. There you go.
And then lastly, before we go into the surprises, last piece of advice for anyone starting a new company or thinking of starting a new one.
Identify your customer persona as soon as possible. So, like I gave the example of the concrete coatings company. I said that, okay, so this is I gave the woman, this is her age, this is the situation. So this is her demographics, right? Her age, gender, how many kids, married, income status, those sorts of things, what type of house she lives in. And then the psychographics, how she feels, what her priorities are, what her values for her family life is like, what she wants to come home to. And then what you do, once you have that persona, you can tailor all of your content and everything that you have as part of your offer to that one person, even though that one person is like a million people or more, depending on your market. So that would be the very first thing, is know who your one persona is, or 2 personas, however many there are, and write everything like it's for one person.
That's really good advice. Thank you. And now
Sure
we're going to
thing.
go into Joshua has some surprises for you. We're going to post the links below so you can check everything out, along with other links that we have for you to know more about him and what he does and his ghostwriting and his company. And so would you like to tell us more about your tools?
Yes. So I've briefly hinted at one so far, and that is like how you know you're creating content that's going to resonate with people. And this is specifically for authorpreneurs or people who want to write a book, whether they want to share their story, right? Or they want to write a book that establishes themselves as the authority, the expert, and having credibility. And that is the Elite Entrepreneurs Book Idea Generator tool. So basically all you have to do is you go to this page. There's no opt-in or sign up required or anything like that. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes to do. So you type in who your customers are, like, how do they identify themselves? Are they working moms? Are they marketing consultants? Whatever they are. And then you just put in what your service is or your subject matter expertise, whether it's home organization or, Facebook marketing or whatever. Put those 2 things in there, and it's going to generate, and you can keep generating a bunch of different ideas for inspiration so that you have a book idea that's going to resonate with people. And it's not just some ego fluff piece that makes you look good, but nobody actually wants to read it. So that's the book idea generator.
I love that. I want to use it.
It is a lot of fun.
I want to use it now. We'll finish. I'm going to start using it, like, literally.
There you go. And the other one is the Ultimate Book Revenue Calculator. So this is based on but based on a quote that I read from J. Conrad Levinson, who's the guy who wrote Guerrilla Marketing, which is like the best-selling marketing book of like the last 50 years, basically. And he said that, and I'm going to quote him here: when people ask me how much I made off of guerrilla marketing, I tell them $10 million. The book itself only made about $35,000 in royalties over the lifetime of the book. But the combination of open doors, speaking gigs, consulting opportunities, follow-up books, groups, products and services, that all together, because I wrote the book, makes up the other $9,965,000 in revenue. So basically what I want to do is help people who are thinking about writing a book know how much they can actually make off of not just the sales of their book if they independently publish, but how much they can make from the upsells and cross sells from people who buy your book. Then they go buy your course, then they go hire you for your services, then they hire you to speak, like all these sorts of things, and how you can calculate the estimated revenue realistically, even realistically, how much you can make, over the coming years, just by having a book in the first place.
Wow, that is so cool. And thank you for sharing it with us. So guys,
Sure thing.
well, they're gonna be on the links below, so you may as well use them. It sounds extremely exciting.
They're a lot of fun.
I think this is the end of our questions. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the interview. I hope you enjoyed it, and for sure we learned a lot. I know I did. And guys, if you want to check out, like I said, all the links are going to be posted below. Remember to share, to like, to follow the channel. And if you want an expert to be invited here and ask him questions or her questions, just comment it or send us an email, and then we'll try to get you that expert. So thank you so much for everything, Joshua, and see you later. Bye, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll be posting videos like this every week, and follow us on Twitter at Behavior Hacker. We are Be Origami at beorigami.com.